You're listening to the New York Said podcast.
Fear not, my friends. This will be my greatest performance.
Give it to me.
Here we go. We came, we saw, we kicked its ass.
Destiny, where are we? Where are we right now?
We are at Henry Street Settlement Abrams Art Center.
What is the importance of this center?
The importance of this center is a creative outlet for folks in the Lower East Side. They bring theater, they have music classes, they have art programs, and I believe they instilled a new program for NYCHA residents. I believe it's free, not 100% sure if that's correct.
And if it's not free, it's not.
If it's not free,
expensive.
it's not expensive.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited that they implemented New York City housing folks to get to experience the space.
First of all, I want to congratulate you. Like, you're just cracking, you're popping, like, like you're moving. Every time I look, I'm like,
She's doing the most. That's what I
but
keep saying.
You're doing the most in the best way possible.
Trying to.
And still
I
being
am.
mad
I'm
cool.
not saying trying to.
Yeah,
I am.
yeah, you are. You are.
I gotta
You're
own
not-
it. I
Yeah,
gotta
own it. What is that? That looks crazy. I'm gonna edit that out. No, you're doing the most in the best way possible. I see you're collaborating with Photoville, and can you talk about that project?
I actually have been in a relationship with Photoville for a couple years now. Like when I was at the Girls Club, we had an exhibition there, and then shortly after, I had my own exhibition, La Vida en Lower East Side, Life on the Lower East Side, and I got to exhibit my own work on the block that I grew up on Avenue D and 6th Street.
Bang.
And so right now it feels like a full circle moment because I got to work with incredible families from the Urban Family Center, and that's also a Henry Street settlement shelter home for families, who are searching for a home in the, right here in the Lower East Side.
What kind of photographer are you? Like I know that's a general loaded question. Are you a documentary photographer? Are you a music photographer? Are you what is it? I don't want to put you in a box, but I'm just
now
curious.
I'm saying I'm a visual storyteller.
Okay.
Because it's not just photography now, but I'm also going into the film world
Yep.
and telling stories through documentary filmmaking. So I think I'm just a hybrid of a mixture of just culture, New York City culture.
Because you've been in so many different worlds.
So
You've been, last time we spoke, you were putting out the book, and you had all this
Right.
phenomenal punk photography. What was the name of the book?
The Way We Were.
How did that go? How did that run go?
Great, it's still going.
Okay. You still going to punk shows and still capturing?
I might go to one tonight
Okay.
in Brooklyn, backyard punk show, pool party situation.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's an ongoing, lifelong passion project. I feel like everything I do is instilled in just my daily life.
Agreed.
And so all the photos all the stories are just gonna continue and continue until I can't
And that's
do it anymore.
Because you seem to get access to worlds that I'm like, that's a little bit dangerous. And then you get access to worlds where it's just in the sense of Gordon Parks, where you're in the home.
But I keep saying it's a full circle moment because I never really talk about this, but my personal experience is I went through the shelter system with my mom in middle school. So I've been through that system. I know how it is. I know how strong you have to be to get through it and wait, until they place you into a home. So when A Perfect City and Catcalling Project approached me about collaborating with them, I had to pause for a second because I was just can I do this? It's so sentimental, so personal. Am I ready to just kind of reflect on my own life and how am I gonna bring photography into such a delicate and I don't know, just a delicate space. Photography is a therapeutic tool, especially for me. So I felt being able to work with these families and have their stories told.
Mm-hmm.
You don't really get to do that every day. So
especially
it's just
when folks are not
moment.
they're not interviewed like that, or they're not captured like that.
Just
so
a
now
teaching
you're
artist.
you're a teaching artist.
Yes.
You're facilitating.
Yes.
So these photographs that we're seeing
are photos from some of the photography mothers who are living at the Urban Family Center.
Okay. Yes. And so what are you telling them? Like, what kind of conversations are you having with them to give them the confidence to say, you can capture this? Outside of like technical stuff of like law of thirds and all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I first started off with sharing my own work and my own experience, and just sharing that like photography is a healing, or can be a healing and therapeutic tool. I shared a lot of my own personal like inspirations and photographers like Joseph Rodriguez, who shot like Spanish Harlem, Uptown, and showing neighborhoods and families. And a lot of the families resonated with that work because they were like, oh, I remember like what it was like back then, and so intimate and personal.
And they probably seen the photography but didn't know the artist, not the artist's name.
No,
okay,
or about him. Like I shared more about him. I was like, he was a taxi driver. Like he also battled his own like dark, battles with drugs and that kind of thing. So just sharing like photo history with them, like from personal life. I also collaborated with the Catcalling Project. Jamore and Tiffany, they are local activists, and that is their collective. So in collaboration with them, we did avoidance mapping, like reimagining like safety on the street. Like so folks were talking about like different areas that they felt unsafe in, and so that was like a prompt that we gave the women to think about. So when they're out making photos, they're like, okay, so what is it in the neighborhood, and why does this space feel unsafe to me, and how do I visually say that through a photograph?
And so what is something that like really surprised you?
Like you said, it was like a lot of the women were like, I'm not a photographer, I don't. And then so I had asked, this is the first thing I always do. I'm like, okay, take out your cell phone, look through your camera roll. What is your favorite photo on that camera roll?
That you've taken?
That they've taken themselves. And then that's when it's like, oh, wait.
So what are some of the pictures that they took pictures of?
One of the women most of her photos were of her son.
Okay.
He's like 1 year old. Yeah. And then I started to see like a progression of like similarities of some photos. So the way she was making photos of her son was always from her perspective. So it's like of the stroller, like at a bird's eye view, and then just different
like he's a plate of food.
Yeah, like different backgrounds of like.
So he's like laying down.
He's laying in the cart.
Okay.
And then you see a little bit of the background of where they're at. And I'm like, oh,
so
I see.
It may be at the park.
Yeah,
it may be,
gotcha. I'm like, I see a pattern here. I'm like, you are a photographer. You're
wow, you have a series.
You have and that's how we started telling her story.
Okay.
And
that's the project.
That's the project that is on exhibition at MLK Park. And then I keep saying full circle because at the opening of the exhibition, she shared news with us that she was placed in her own apartment, and it just felt like a perfect like celebration of just like her photography, telling her own story through, living in the shelter system and then being placed in her own home with her newborn.
How did this come about? Who reached out to you?
So A Perfect City is another art and activism collective. They do a lot of work with youth revolving around conversations of gentrification. Aaron Landsman, who is one of the founders, reached out to me, and we've spoken before because I used to be a community organizer for the Design Trust for Public Space in Lillian Waldhaus's, and I had been to one of their meetings.
You were the what?
I was a community organizer for the Design Trust for Public Space. They're creating a project around taking the fences down that are in public housing.
In Lillian Ward?
In Waldhaus's, yeah. So when I was organizing then, I met Aaron, who is the founder of A Perfect City. And he was like, oh, you should come and share the project that you're doing with some of our youth, and that's how we met. And then we've just stayed connected ever since. He's like, we need to collaborate on a project. And then when they were talking about doing this project, he reached out to me. And he had no idea about my background, my history of like being in the system, in the shelter system. So it was just like, I felt like it was just meant to be in a sense.
You're not only like super active, making all kinds of photography, working on all kinds of projects, traveling, you're in various environments.
Right.
But you still find time to give back. How do you find that time when like most people, including myself, can make all kinds of excuses of like, no, I can't do that because I'm never going to call you busy. Someone that's as productive as you are still finds time to give back. How do you find time and what's driving you?
I love living life and I love being around people, and when I give back, that's fulfillment. Like I feel like, okay, that's what's driving me. Like the people who I'm around. I guess that's what it is. I don't know. That's a hard one.
Because you just do what you do.
It's just natural.
Like you don't have to make up an answer, but I mean, I feel like you just.
I'm like, I don't know. That's just a part of me, and I have no.
Have you always been that way?
Yeah, I think it's instilled through my mom. She was always very active, like volunteering and in that kind of thing. So I think it's just like part of my upbringing and always being around that kind of environment and supporting others. Because when I was at home, there's always somebody knocking and being like, Marianne, can you help me with this or can you help me with that? And I guess just seeing her. Yeah, she's the motivation that keeps me doing what I'm doing.
I also just recently saw that you did a collaboration with...
Which one, the Free Film Project?
Yes. You were all through it. Like I was watching it on Hypebeast.
Yeah, that was crazy. That was I was an artist in residence with the Free Film Project, and they gave away 100 free rolls of film to folks in the Lower East Side to document the neighborhood. And I got selected as the artist in residence, and I had to work with some of my students at the Lower East Side Girls Club and some of my neighbors. That was like a month where I got to take over a Airstream, which is a mobile darkroom.
Wow.
So it was cool. I've never done an artist in residence before, and I was
what was the process? Did you have to like fill out a document and write an essay?
Yeah, so they had an open call, and I applied, and I was selected to be the LES artist in residence. And so it's going to be this program's going to be moving throughout all the 5 boroughs.
Okay.
The next stop's in the Bronx, and there'll be an artist in residence.
Was it all film? And you shot?
All film.
Have you shot film before?
I have, yeah, but that was not until like I was in college when I did that. So it was just like a refresher. I'm like developing, processing, printing.
Really?
It was like I had to do a crash course like to refresh myself on how to do that.
How long was the residency?
It was only a month, so.
And how many shots did you have to take? Or did you take?
They gave me 36 rolls of film, and they gave me 36 rolls. I donated all my film to my neighbors.
Okay.
Because when they gave the 100 rolls out, I didn't see like a true reflection of the neighborhood.
Right.
So the people who were coming, I'm like, I don't recognize a lot of these people.
Right.
So I felt like as my responsibility as the like artist in residence that I needed to get these rolls in the hands of people who live here, so like directly across the street, like Avenue D.
Okay, yeah.
So I had a lot of people. I had like some older folks who
broke out their old cameras.
No, so we had 6 cameras that folks to check out.
Oh, okay.
So I gave some cameras out, loaned them out, showed them how to use the camera real quick. So it's like a crash course on like taking film photos, and they did the whole thing. They shot, they developed, and printed. I couldn't have done this alone. I had friends volunteering with me who are photographers to come and like work with folks. So it became like a community darkroom.
Yeah.
And like just free and open to anyone who was interested.
And you were parked on Avenue D?
Avenue D and A Street in front of the Lower East Side Girls Club.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I walked past there because I used to live in 40 Avenue D.
Dang, you're right there.
I was in it for 5 years. I met friends there in like, I don't know, 97. Mm-hmm. Then so for 5 years I was just out there living it up. But I was with a family. I was with the Laura family. Are you familiar with the Laura family? They used to own a bodega right there.
Oh, Laura, you were with the damn.
That's my second family.
Real Elliot.
Yes. So that's
R.I.P. Laura.
Yes.
On 5th, right? 5th
yeah,
and D,
they were
on the corner.
On the 40, yes.
On the corner,
yes.
Yeah.
So like when I first got my first brick sandwich was from...
That's the best. I'm so sad that they're gone. Dang,
Yeah.
You're like, I was not only living on Avenue D, but I was like...
they're like my
That's the
second family. They're
staple. That's
so whenever I
Avenue D.
go to like DR, I go with them, and I stay at the apartment. Like I stay with the family. So they adopted me. So when like my life took a turn, they were like, "Come on," you know, like come on. And
I
so
love that.
yeah, so it was fantastic. So because of who I was with, and and the thing is like, they were never like walking with me. So I wasn't like
you
they
were just
like,
experiencing.
yeah, but people knew who I was with. So
Yeah, they were like, oh.
So it was
Co-signed.
like, yeah, so I'd be like sitting outside with Ed. Ed's the kind of big brother. I'm chilling with Ed, and they're like, oh, he's with Ed. Okay, so
You're
like,
good. You're good.
I'm good. So like, no one said anything crazy to me because I knew who I was with, and I knew the people.
Yeah,
so
people are always watching. Like, who is that?
who's that? Yeah, and so like. And even when I went to the barbershop with...
But that's what makes LES so special,
Yeah.
you know, or just any neighborhood that has that,
Yeah.
you know, it's super special.
And it's funny because when I first moved there, and I'll stop talking about me, but when I first moved there, I needed to get a haircut.
Yeah.
So I would go to Juan. And so Juan's right
the
there on the...
spot, yeah.
Yeah, so... But for the first 2 years, nobody said shit to me. I'm saying I'm there 5 years. For the first 2
Wait,
years...
but how'd you know about one? Or you just stumbled upon?
No, because I have to walk up Fifth.
Oh,
Like
so
I
you
would,
saw- you
I would
walked
always
past,
walk
yeah,
up, and so I was like, you know what, this feels like me. So I would go in, and I would get a shape up, and for 2 years, like I would walk. People, you know how like a barbershop is mad loud. I walk in, and people would be like, yep. They get mad quiet, and then after about, I kept coming back. So then like one day I walked in, they was like, hey man, how you doing? And I was like, oh, I'm in. It took like 2 years for them to realize, like, oh, he ain't the police. And I even tried to say, like, hey, I'm with the, and he was like, yeah, I never heard him. No, I don't know what that. So I felt like I was like 21 Jump Street for the fucking first 2 years. So, anyways, but now when I go back, it's love. Like, it's, you know, because I still got to go get a shape up. But when I go get it, I go to Juan. But anyways.
And he's a photographer too.
Yeah.
He's a
Juan
birder.
loves birds. That's what I'm
Yes.
going to say. Like, I talk about Juan all the time, and I've been literally courting him since the first time I ever got here. I'm like, hey man, I do interviews. I would love. He was like, nah.
He's a very like classic photographer who's like, I don't do interviews.
Yeah.
Like,
But he does, like, he loves hawks. Like he loves.
So we went. I took my class.
Okay.
Over when we were doing the free film project, and he said yes to an interview.
He did?
He had the girls interview him. And he brought out his huge telephoto lens.
Yes.
He's like, this is what I use to photograph the hawks.
He is
I was like, whoa, this thing. He
He's
takes it
nature,
very serious.
nature. Like I was telling somebody like 2 days ago, I was like, my barber, he's a barber, but like if you bring up hawks or birds,
my-
like that's his true passion. He
Yes,
just
it
happens to cut hair really well. You know what I'm saying? Like he's a staple of the neighborhood, but if you know him, you know him.
But it felt like a photo club in there because we met another photographer. His name's Javi, and he loves portraits. And I saw his Instagram. I'm like, wow, like it's so talented. So it's just like a
Fantastic.
barbershop / like photo club.
Yeah.
Low key.
Yeah. And then that I love Juan. I love the barbershop.
Dang, Juan's and Laura's.
Speaking of Juan's, let's talk about that one shot.
Oh my God.
That my favorite.
That's my I feel like that's my iconic
To
photo
me, it is. I
right
love.
now.
That's my favorite. I
That's
talk about it all the time.
iconic photo of Avenue D
So you
and
took
6th
this
Street.
fantastic photo. This like the iconic, like what New. I feel like it should be, I don't know, 12 foot by 12 foot. Like someone.
I would
like,
love to see it that big. Yeah.
Yeah, we need to talk to Sean over at.
Okay, Sean,
come on,
hook us
Sean.
up.
Yeah. Because it's literally, it should be in the Museum of the City of New York, big as hell, so we can just see larger than life. Because we can see it here, but like
we say the photo is iconic, but Juan himself is iconic in the neighborhood. Like if you don't know Juan, then you ain't from
Right.
you ain't from Avenue D.
Yeah.
Like, so
how did that come about? How did that photo come about? And talk about the composition. Like, what is the photo? Because people are listening.
So it was summertime in I don't know what year. I was in my freshman year at college, taking my intro to photo course, and I was starting to learn Flash. And so I asked my friend to come out and like make some photos. So it was nighttime, summertime on Avenue D. So we're in there taking photos. I was like, Juan, can I take some photos in here? He's like, yeah, whatever. Taking photos of my friend with the flash. And I'm like, Juan, I don't have a photo of you. And he's like, yeah, take my photo. And I got him like bagging, like I was buying a Coke. I got him like in action bagging a Coke into like a paper bag.
Yeah.
But other than that, like just the scenery of, it's like classic bodega, New York City bodega, like colorful candies. He even had a jar of pickles on the side. Like
I love that
just
shot.
Says so much in it. You know, it's so vibrant, and he's like smiling in the photo. It just truly, I feel like it captured like that, like his essence.
I didn't know that there was a Coke in the shot.
Yeah, it's a
until,
Coca-Cola.
Like,
It's a Coca-Cola.
You and I spoke about, because it's just so much information.
It's so much
and it's
so much color.
nostalgic. Like, I've had every single last candy he's selling. I've had the Apple Heads. I've had the Cherry Clan. I've had all of it. I've had it all.
And now, like, a few things have changed in there, but they have like a plastic draping because of the pandemic, and it just doesn't feel the same. So I'm glad I captured it in that moment, you know, in time when, I don't know, life was good, I guess.
Do you think there's like a magic or a sorcery into the way you capture things so authentically?
I think just like,
because your work is like
being
truth.
Knowing the people that you photograph. Like Juan knows me because I'm in there all the time. So just like having that like relationship and connection with the people.
So he's like disarmed already. He's just like, hey, Destiny.
Yeah,
he's not like, if I went in there with my camera, I'm like, hey, why don't take a picture? He's like, what's happening?
I mean, he's pretty chill with people coming in, taking photos, but like, you know,
but they
not
can't get
every
it like
person.
you get it.
Yeah,
they can't get it like you. Don't be humble. They can't get what you could get.
But also, it's just like, I don't know, spending time with people.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't know, I don't think I'm threatening or anything, so
but you take time.
It takes time to be with
Sometimes
people.
when I'm interviewing folks, especially folks that like haven't been interviewed like that,
yeah,
I'll just create a rapport. You know, just kind of like, hey, what's going on? Like, feel my energy. Like,
yeah,
you know,
I
that
think
kind
it's
of thing.
definitely energy, like that comes off, that radiates off of you, and maybe that's what it is with me.
Yeah.
People feel like comfortable.
Let's walk to MLK Park.
Oh yeah, let's go check it out. I got cozy right here on the steps.
No.
You know, they're gonna change this whole
The courtyard?
architecture here.
They are?
I'm kind of sad about
This
it.
is my first time here. I interviewed Craig over the pandemic. And I was like, oh yeah, I'll come by, and I haven't yet. But
well, you got to see it now. They're gonna change it up.
But I heard they have like free, not free, but they have galleries in there that if you, like, they have like movie theaters and stuff like that.
They have a theater, like, where they put on like full-on plays and that kind of thing. Yeah.
Clayton Patterson.
Another full circle moment. I know I was talking to you about him on the interview.
Nah, we could keep going. So what's up with Clayton?
So Clayton's showing his series of front door photos. I don't know if you're familiar with.
Yeah, I did an episode with Clayton.
Okay, yeah, so you know about his front door portraits.
Yes.
So yeah, they're being exhibited through Photoville.
A really cool friend named Suhei. As a matter of fact, I need to tell her that that's happening, because when I told her that I did the episode with Clayton, she was like, just went into almost burst out. She's LES proper. She was like, I took a picture of his in front of his door as a kid, and she just started going, you know, and she's older. She has a daughter now, like, you know.
Yeah, no, so his photos are exhibited right next to our exhibition, Invisible Guides.
Okay.
So it just feels another, like, I keep saying full circle, but full circle because, like, he's my mentor.
Yes.
So it's just like, it just felt, I don't know, like.
What is it like to have Clayton Patterson as a mentor?
I love having Clayton as a mentor because I always go in and I like learn so much history and like stories about the neighborhood. Every time I go visit him, I'm like, okay, story time. I sit down and I'm like, all right, tell me. I'm like, Clayton, I've heard that story. Tell me a different one.
The first time when we sat down, we sat like right there in the window, I was like, hey, you know, I'm kind of nervous and excited, but I'm just like, hey, he's like, breathe, get me a coffee. So I went and got him a coffee, and on the walk, I was just like, oh, okay, I'm gonna relax. I took a deep breath, and then I came back, and we were just chilling. It was an amazing
like a
interview.
magical, I don't know, magical man that's also lived many lives.
Let's talk about your origin story for a second. How'd you get into photography? Where did you get started?
Now I know what to say, because I was like, it's weird because I grew up in Texas and in New York. But I was born in Texas, raised in New York, so now I say I'm a hybrid, but I'm a Teja Yorker.
Teja,
So I'm a Texan and a New Yorker, mixed. But yeah, I ended up in New York because my aunt moved here to become a fashion photographer, and my mom followed her up here. So having her as my inspiration and intro to photography made me want to become a photographer, but not a fashion photographer, a documentary photographer. I wanted to tell real stories.
Did you know that out the gate, or did you have to do like trial and error and try different types of photography? Like, let me try food, let me try models, or you were just like, no, I want to document.
So what really got me into documentary photography, I was reading the New York Times Lens blog, and I came across this photographer, Boogie.
And
he
I know
did
Boogie. I don't know him personally, but I know his work.
Yeah, he did a series
with all those crazy guns and the black and white.
So it was like public. He was in public housing. I don't know if it was Bushwick or Bed-Stuy. I forget what area he was in, but I remember
he was in the hood. I think he was in
the
Crown
hood. One
Heights.
of the. Yeah, so I was like, oh, like these photos are real. Like these are real stories.
They let him into a world. Like they let him. I mean, like they're like doing heroin.
They gave him all access. Yeah. But it reminded me of like where I grew up in public housing.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, yeah, this is one side of the story.
Okay.
But I grew up seeing a different side. You know, it's not always guns or negative or violent. You know, I was like, porn. I saw a positive side too to it. So that made me snap, and it was like, okay, I'm gonna start documenting my own life, but I don't want to show that, because you always see that. You always see the negative part of living in public housing, you know?
I took a trip to Haiti once, and I was like, I'm not going to get any of the things that people think that you like, all the stereotypes. I want to find the joy. And so I got like kids doing cartwheels and this and that, you know, like.
We're going, I'm trying, we'll just keep walking.
Okay.
But also I knew like how, like, having a home for me was just like so important, because I never had my own space or own, like growing up, like we lived with my aunt, we lived with friends, we lived on the subway, in the shelter system. So having a home and like in public housing, like it's just so special. And I wanted to make sure that if I'm telling the story, that I tell it, you know, in a positive light. Because I didn't see what he saw.
Did you see Everybody's Street? You ever see that documentary?
I love Everybody's Street. Same. Cheryl Dunn.
Yeah.
Amazing job making that documentary.
I haven't written her or even reached out, but I definitely I would love to have a conversation with Cheryl Dunn.
Open to an interview, I'm sure.
Fantastic.
But yeah, I love that. I always show my students that documentary.
Same. I just sent it. My friend, he was like, "Oh yeah, I just undusted my camera." I was like, "Watch this for inspiration."
Yeah,
it's
like
on
whenever I'm like in a funk and I'm like, oh, I don't want to take any photos, I just turn that documentary. I'm like, I'm ready. Let's go.
You know, it's free on Tubi. Shoot. Not to be advertising any company, but like, they got so many free like art documentaries, which is insane. Watch a couple of commercials, but you know.
That one's one of my favorite.
So that's when you started getting into
documentary.
But I mean, like documenting your grandmother and your. Remember, you had the photography of your.
So I started there, and then when I would go visit family, I would continue documenting my life, which is my grandparents, my cousins.
My other favorite shot is your grandfather counting those beans.
Also, so like I always say, like photography is in my DNA because it started with him. Like he was a part-time wedding photographer.
Wow.
So my grandparents had a Tex-Mex restaurant, and the restaurant was right across the street from a church. So he would always run over there on the weekends and take photos of the weddings that were happening.
Wow.
And then sell those photos to them. So the camera was always in my face. If it wasn't my grandpa, it was my aunt or my mom. So it was always around.
And so finding your voice, you knew that you're like, whatever I'm going to capture is going to be real, but it's also going to be positive.
I'm not going to say everything was positive, and not everything in my life was positive, but there are some dark times.
I mean, as far
that
as
were
like,
documented.
you documented the dark times too?
And especially like me in those dark times.
Oh, okay,
Like
gotcha.
portrait. It was more self-portraiture.
Okay. Because this, I've been taking all kinds of photography and pictures over the years, and then I'll find myself in certain situations where I'm like, do I hit the shutter?
Yeah.
Like one time I was in Louisiana. I was in a small town, and this guy was like trying to show me something, and he pulled behind this curtain and he showed me all these people, and I was like, I had the camera, and this woman looked at me like, do I look like content to you?
Yeah.
And it was the way she looked at me, and I was like, fudge. I just put my camera down because I had nothing to do with the assignment, but this guy wanted to show me something.
Yeah.
But immediately, like,
You want- yeah,
and
it
you
was
look at it,
instinct.
and you look at it like, oh man, this is not, so, but some people could go be like, oh, they could kind of turn into like a sociopath, turn it off, and just capture anything.
Yeah.
It's kind of a tangent in the sense of like capturing dark times, but we're talking about in a personal sense. But
I think most of the dark times were like, I flipped the camera on myself.
Okay.
In those moments. But yeah, I feel like I'm on my Jamel Shabazz era of, I want to respect everyone and ask for permission now. I'm like not into like candid moments if I don't know the folks that I'm photographing.
Yeah.
Like I ask before I make the photos now.
Yeah.
Just because, especially now, like we're all very sensitive to the camera and like where is it going and asking all these questions.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I just want to be respectable.
So let's talk about just the importance of documenting, whether it's through film, photography, even this audio. Can you talk about the importance of legacy and like the part that you play in capturing?
I just think that like everything's changing all the time. Like the landscape of the neighborhood's constantly changing.
What neighborhood are we in right now? Like, what are we walking in front of?
We're in, I guess we can call it Lower East Side, which is the Lower East Side. That term coined by Bimbo Rivas, who is a local activist in the Lower East Side. We're on Pitt Street, so we're walking over to Hamilton Fish Park. But also like, I don't know, going back to Clayton, it's like seeing all of the archive and the stories of everyone.
Yeah.
It's like I want to have that archive for Avenue D, the block that I grew up on, and just continue preserving all the stories of the folks who are from there. Just because it's like the last of the Mohicans, I feel
It
like
is.
Avenue D, like this whole area is super gentrified, except
Right.
for like Avenue D, that strip from like 14th going all the way
What's that?
past Pitt
What's
Street.
that saying? I always ask, but what's that saying? It's like Avenue A means.
Oh, adventurous, B, bad or brave, C, crazy or
And D-
curious, and D, death
Death, like always death or dead.
or dead.
Yeah. So this is it. This is the last question
Okay.
out of all these experiences. Because now, I know it's been a few
Coming
years.
with the heavy hitting.
Yeah, this is the
question.
last question. All these experiences from Texas to New York, from all the various styles of photography, from getting into film, from Jeanette Beckman being your mentor, to Clayton Patterson being your mentor, to
Deborah Scher from
Deborah
Culture Crush.
Yes. Working, I didn't even talk about this. You did some work with International Center for Photography, ICP.
Yeah, recently.
You did like a,
Photo walk. Did a it's photo workshop, I should
yeah,
say.
all these things, hype beats, all this stuff. What has been just a very important lesson that you've learned?
I think just being dedicated and like really caring and just being genuine about the work that you do. I think I put a lot of care and love into what I do, and I keep going back to either the punks, or my neighborhood that I grew up in, or family. I don't know, just keep that passion and that light going. That's what keeps me going. All of those different stories that are
Staying
life.
dedicated.
Yeah, the dedication is what it is. Yeah, consistency. just keep doing it. Just keep doing it. Keep living.
Yeah. Keep capturing.
Keep living. Bring your camera with you while you're doing it.
Fantastic. That's it.
Yeah. Thank you. This
Thank
is
you.
good. We gotta meet up every, I don't know how many.
Yeah.
When was the last time?